Hi Active Melody members, Charjo here. I came across something that I thought could be of use to all the members, and it has to do with finding root notes within the minor pentatonic patterns, root notes and other intervals. There are a number of ways to find the roots within the pentatonic patterns. If we were to take the key of A, one way would be just to know the notes on your guitar fretboard and know where all the A's are. So we might have an A here, an A here, an A here, A here, A here, we've got an A here, got A's here, another A here. So it's useful to know the notes. Another way may be just to know where the roots are within each pattern. So if we've got pattern 1, we've got our roots there. If I've got pattern 2, I've got a root here, a root here. Pattern 3, I've got a root here, I've got a root here. Pattern 4, I've got a root here, here, and a root here. So that can be helpful as well. We've had this hoax propagated on us that there are 5 pentatonic patterns. I'm here to tell you there's only one pentatonic pattern, and that pattern just repeats all the way up the fretboard. To see how this works, you have to consider the guitar as a 5-stringed instrument. The E strings are duplicate, so as this pattern develops, we're going to disregard either one of those strings. So we've got a pattern, so take box 1. We've got this pattern that goes 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 4. If I was to try to duplicate that pattern in the next position, I'm going to need, this is our root, minor, third, and our fourth. So I need the third and the fourth. They're here. So if I put them up here, third, fourth, if I then take what is below and put it underneath what I just played, I've shifted it down 1 fret because it was on the B string and the B string is tuned 1 fret lower. Now if I take the notes from above and put those below, the pattern carries on 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 3. It shifts now because the B string is tuned down a fret, so 1, 3, 1, 3. So it's the same series of 1, 3s and 1, 4s, except we're starting lower and rotating around. If I go into my next pattern, I've got root, minor, third, fourth, fifth. Fourth and fifth is here, and there's a series of 1, 3s. So if I started here, I've got 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. This is again my pattern 3. I have to shift down to account this was initially on the B string. Then I have to shift up to account for the tuning down of the B string. So the same sequence of 1, 4 and 1, 3 pattern is being replicated here. And then finally, if I'm doing pattern 4, it's the series 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 4, duplicating what's here. So the relevance of this is that the same sequence of 1, 3s and 1, 4s are repeating as we go through each of the pentatonic patterns. So consider box 1. We've got this, this box of stacked 1, 3s. So the most useful landmark here is that the root note will always be on the 3 of the middle of the 1, 3 stack. So you're always going to find the root note on the 3 of the middle of the series of 1, 3s. Let's look at pattern 3. We've got that series of 1, 3s. There's my root note. Let's look at position 2. So I've got my series of 1, 3s. So on the 3 of the middle 1-3, that's where the root note is. So in every pattern, the root note is always going to be in the middle of the series of 1-3s on the 3. Brian always talks about a note that Eric Clapton likes to tweak to give a bluesy sound. So what is that note? That note is the minor third. So how do I find that note? If we look at that series of 1-3s, there's my root. That note is the minor third. Brian says you should tweak that note. So okay, so let's look at pattern 2. So there it is again at the bottom of the series of 1-3 stack on the 1. That's the minor third. That's that note you can always tweak, as Brian says we should be doing. Okay, so now let's go down. Let's do the moving from pattern 1 into pattern 2. So here's my new series of 1 and 3. Let's tweak those thirds. Okay, because we're always at the bottom of the 1-3 stack, the minor third. So where are the blue notes? The blue notes are always in the middle of the first 1-3. And as an extension of the bottom 1-3. So it's there. That's the other blue note. So in relation to your stack of 3s, you've got the first one between the 1 and 3 of the first 1-3, and the second one to the right, or up the fretboard compared to the third 1-3. So now, where are the root notes again? So we've got the root note in the middle of the 1-3. When we look at pattern 2, we've got this. So notice that we get a stack of 2 1-4s. So 1-4, 1-4. So the root note is always going to be in the second one of the 1-4s. Okay, where else do we get that sort of pattern? If we were in pattern 4 in the key of A, we've got... So 1-4, 1-4, there's my root, the second one of the, the second 1-4 on the 1. Then I go into my stack of 1-3s. There's my root, the second 3 of the stack of 1-3s. Where's my minor third? Where are my blue notes? The root was there, the beginning of the 1-3s. The last 1-3 to the right. There's my root again. Brian always talks about, or lately he's been talking about the Dorian scale. And he says there's an extra note that we can add to the minor pentatonic to color it and give it a Dorian sound. So one of the notes is the major second. So how do I find that note? Well, if I'm in box 1 again, I've got my stack of 1-3s. There's that minor third. So the major second, that extra note on the Dorian scale, is just to the left of that. think it's useful to have landmarks to know what interval you're at and how to duplicate it so that you know which notes are ones that you can do a quarter bend on, how you can find notes that are outside of the major pentatonic, out of the minor pentatonic, and how to find the root notes so you know where to maybe end a phrase, to resolve a phrase. So this is Char Joe signing out. I send this out to all my blues brothers, Buddy Bones, Jailhouse Lemon, Old Bones, Ugly Eyes, Fatback, Screaming Lips. You guys know who you are. This is Bony Fingers Hopkins signing out. Thanks for listening.